Hey everyone, TJ here. We're jumping into another Subby devlog. This one should be number 5. I'm surprised I've made it this far. But today we're going to be trying to get as much done as possible. I'm only going to hit the highlights. Might not do quite as much time lapse. Try and keep the video shorter and go from there. Just keep the good stuff in. So let's jump into it. First thing I wanted to cover today was a quick look at the Trello board and where we're sitting right now. As you can see, we've got collecting life in our done box. And then in progress, I've updated sub movement, updated the update sub movement. In here, we've got a checklist for speed based on attached equipment and on weight. So the heavier the submarine gets when you have more in your cargo bay, the slower you're going to move. And if you have a better engine and whatnot, you can move faster. So that's going to be one of the next things to cover here. I've also added stuff to the game controller, so I want to keep track of game state, the equipped sub parts, playtime, life collected, and the inventory as a save rather than just storing it in the cargo bay object. I have an idea on how I want to do this. I've got some back-end code that's already been written. I just need to implement it for Subby itself. So I think that might be all I'm going to attempt to do. We're also going to try and tackle when we're working on the game controller, that's going to keep track of the player money as well. That doesn't need to be on the player object. That just needs to be for the current session the game is in. So we're going to have to keep track of this. I might add it in the UI. But yeah, that's kind of the plan for today. And go from there. So let's jump into this. Okay, so I wanted to jump back in here and kind of explain what's going on. So if we go to the code here, jump over here. What I'm doing with this Subby save controller is I'm implementing a library I have called a save controller. I can kind of jump to it. It's implementing a library I built myself for another project that uses lit.json as the backend. But what we're doing is it's going to take in a save template, which I haven't created yet. This is not lined up. Or is this? Okay. And this is in my TJ the Programmer core library that is cross repo. So it's a submodule to this project. And it's got all of these functions on it to create a save file, save the game, load a save. And then down here, we've got reading JSON, saving JSON, and at an even lower level, which is the JSON loader, which I don't really want to get into, we have these get nested calls. So the way it works is I can access a value by, for example, the money is going to be in the structure. Let me zoom in on this. So if this starting at line 20 was a JSON object, we'd have object called player, so player, and then make it an object, and then we'll have an item in here called money, and we can say it's 100. And that's how the save file is kind of going to be set up. It'll be encrypted at some point, but here's kind of what the save file is doing. And I'm accessing it by typing in player, I can type player.money into this formatted string. So that's what this line right here is doing. Let me do this. So the string.format is going to format it so it's player.money. And it looks here and says, oh, this is a nested int value. Nested being it's several layers in. And that's how we get our values out of the save file. I've tested it. It's nice and quick. Don't have any performance issues with it. Let me move these. And that's kind of how things are going to be set up for storing values that we're running in the game. I'm going to do it for money, inventory, and whatnot. We're just going to have these nice simple calls to get the values, and we don't have to think twice about it. And whenever values change, if we have to update the save file, we're going to have a flag here that's just saying, hey, there's a new save, and we can update it. So that's how that's working. I just wanted to stop and share that and keep going. So another small update here. We've got a save template now. So this is kind of what the save template's going to look like. We've got our playtime, the player. On the player, we've got money, and then what we'll have the sub upgrades. We're going to keep track of what life has been collected just because we can, and the version number of the file. And as you can see over here on the right hand side, I made a class to keep track of all of the strings. So I'm going to be using this in our save controller so I don't have to hard code these strings anymore. It's just accessed by a variable rather than a hard coded string. I like doing that because it significantly reduces the number of typos in your code. If you haven't watched my video on using or not using hard coded strings, this is how you do it. So you make a public static class, kind of name it whatever you want that you can remember is your string class, and then you make these public const strings and give them a variable name that makes sense for the string, and you're good to go. You can replace all of your instances with, if say we're using playtime for a string, all of those would be replaced by Subby string .playtime, and that's all we have to do. So that's how we do that. Let's see, jumping back here, compiling, good. I think we're good. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so I've been doing some work without recording here, and I just wanted to give a quick little update. But what I got working is kind of cool. So let me show it first, and then I'll show the code behind. So if I go collect some life here and whatnot, so we got some life in our inventory. And zoom in a little bit so it's nice and easy to see what's going on here. So if I click inventory, you can see we've got, whoops, you can see we've got the life showing up properly. The thing that I added here is this info panel. So if you click info, all it does is show the current money we have. So that's what this $0 is right here. But if we go and sell all of our life, exit, hit inventory, we now have $17, and it's working through our save controller. We've made some good progress already. So how's this working? Well, what I did was I made this player info panel. I'm planning on adding playtime in here as well. But what I did, we space these out a little bit. We have a function to set the save controller. So the player info panel has a reference to our save controller, and the values it needs on enable, we're going to put all the values here, and it should just work. And we can format them as needed. I put this as a child of the game controller, so it's sitting right here. And on start, when we create this object, it sets the save controller, and that's all we had to do to get that working. And as you can see with this, we're calling the save controller get player money that we set up earlier. That's this right here. And that all seems to be working perfectly now. I think we're on track at this point. These errors are because this panel is showing and there's not a reference to the right objects, and players screwing up on scene reload after compile. But if we just go from scratch here, we can click on info. It shows. We can click on cargo. I'll make this panel much prettier later on, but programmer art, I'm okay with it right now. So we have that working. So, with where we've gotten so far, I think this is a great place to call this devlog. Um, we've made serious headway. We're getting more framework stuff in. I might push ahead a little bit without recording. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But with where we're at, I think we're in great shape to have something that I can maybe put a demo out. Who knows? But have something solid and playable in the next couple weeks. Right now, the core game loop is working. We've got player movement, collecting life, exchanging life, having money. The only things we're missing are being able to use the money for something and going deeper, more life, etc. We're gonna need to get some art in because that green box it's not pretty and it's nothing to really look at right now. So stay tuned. It's gonna get a lot better, and we'll go from there. Other than that, check out my buddy Ryan's SoundCloud down in the description below. He's been nice enough to let me borrow some of his music for making these. And other than that, like and subscribe if you're enjoying it. Catch you in the next one. TJ out.